Welcome to the 20th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Rudell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com. Between them, they've covered Penn State football for 70 years. The NitWits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Alex Colley, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State! By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Good evening and welcome to the NitWits. We're here to break down Penn State's 56-44 win over Nebraska on Senior Day. To do that, we have the Altoona Mirror's Neil Rudell, FightOnState.com's Mark Brennan, joining us in the guest chair once again. Once a captain, always the captain, Mike Irwin. Thanks so much for coming back.
It's good to be here.
Armed with his pen.
That's right.
No
That's
clicker
right.
on this one?
If you get out of line, I'll be pointing at you.
Wave it around.
I have ink in it. I can be pushing the ink off of it.
All right. Well, it was a game that had its ups and downs. What were your keynotes from Saturday?
Well, do we want to start with the first half or the second half? Let's start with the first half. That'd be a little more positive. Hey, they came out and jumped on Nebraska. It's obviously a real struggling program right now. Kind of startling to see a Nebraska team, I think, down 42-10. I know they've had their problems, and I'm sure they're going to address those at the end of the season. But I thought it was encouraging that Penn State got Barkley to the edge, got him some running room, and boy, he looked better than he has in a month, I thought.
Yeah, nice job by the offensive line. James Franklin really said leading into the game that he thought it was going to be one of their better games, and part of that had to do with the opponent, but they didn't play particularly well against Rutgers, so I thought the fact that they did well, and you know what, the ability of Saquon in what was probably his final game at Beaver Stadium, how fitting was that he was able to get it going once again. None of his quote-unquote issues this year I think have been his fault. But it really was nice to see him get going. The other thing I want to give a shout out before we miss it, the pregame thing with Tim Shaw, to me, was just absolutely tremendous. I mean, that's what Penn State football is all about. So I know we want to talk about the game, but Tim Shaw, Saquon Barkley, a guy who's represented the program so well and will for at least another couple games, those things really stood out to me.
Well, I was impressed at Senior Day and the number of people and the fans that showed up. I mean, I think this group of seniors has restored the pride in Penn State, and just going down there and seeing 106 or 107,000 people in those kind of conditions. I don't think if you rolled back 4 years ago you would get that kind of a crowd, but I think everybody's behind Penn State right now. The alumni, the fans, the students, the lettermen, everybody's kind of regrouped, and I think we have a great future at Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some of the seniors that have that played their final game and were introduced. I mean, you're talking about some of the greatest players at their position that Penn State has had. And obviously, even though he wasn't introduced, you lump Barkley into that. But Jasicki's in a league with Kwalik and Brady and Deshaun Hamilton with 200 catches, your all-time leading receiver. Marcus Allen, his most tackles of any non-linebacker they've ever had. Just a great class.
Well, if you look at it, what record wasn't broken this year? I'd like to make a list of all the records that were broken. I mean, number of touchdowns. I know Barkley set a new record over Lydell Mitchell with 39 touchdowns.
40 plus years.
Hamilton and Jasicki have new records, I guess, in the books. And whatever else. I mean, there are a lot of records broken this year.
Well, yeah, get back to the senior class. Think about it. I mean, these guys, all of them, even the fifth-year guys who came in, who were recruited under O'Brien, came to Penn State at a very difficult time. They really took a chance on Penn State. I mean, and Penn State obviously did well for them and vice versa, but that's why I think you had 106,000 or whatever it was that showed up in the rain and the cold. People appreciate what these guys have done. They had other options. They had other places they could have gone. When they got to Penn State, these guys, there was no guarantee that they would go to bowls for several years. And, given the way things were playing out, people were talking about Penn State being down for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And to come in and have things turn around to where they are now, that we could look at a game like this and we'll have a segment where we're nitpicking all the wet blanket stuff, which is, I think, a sign of where the program's come. It really speaks to the job that they've done in helping to restore the roar.
And at that point, there was more opportunity for immediate playing time for some of those guys than there may have been at some of their other options. And boy, did they take advantage of it. A lot of these kids that have developed into potential pros might not have seen the field as quickly at another place.
And even though we have like 23 of the seniors leaving, it seems like they've done a good job recruiting and other people coming in to replace them. So I think we have a very bright future. I think if we had to look anywhere in the country for a team with more promise and a better future, I think Penn State would have to be number one in most people's hearts, I think. At least in my heart, I
Your
think.
heart, Mike?
As long as it's still beaten.
We hope so, Mike.
Okay.
Well, we know those seniors won't be back next year. A lot of the questions afterwards were, of course, if Saquon Barkley will be back next year. He wasn't ready to comment on that, going to take the time to talk about it with his family at the season, but he did commit to saying he is going to be playing in the bowl game. Knowing him, how we've known him over the few years, are you really surprised by that?
Oh, I think he's a great representative for Penn State football. I mean, we couldn't have a better role model than Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's done all the right things, and now they announced he's going to play in this bowl game. I mean, at the risk of getting hurt, I mean, he's really looking out for the team, and he's been a team. And all those kids down there, I think, have all been team players. I mean, some of the kids that haven't been playing, I think, are still rallying behind the program, and so it's great to see. But Barkley's the prime example.
Well, I thought that was a good piece of news, obviously, for them yesterday. It was a little surprising, I think, because the week before he sort of checked on that subject in terms of maybe the bigger picture of have you made a decision on whether you're coming back next year. But I think that's a real win-win because it may affect what bowl they could be in. They're way more attractive with him playing than if he left the door open to possibly not.
Well, and this is one of those deals where with Saquon, nobody would have been at all surprised, and I don't think anybody would have really held it against him if he decided not to play in a bowl. I mean, when you think about what's at stake now in terms of millions and millions of dollars, but as Mike said, and Alex, I mean, listen, we know what this kid's all about, and I guess when you think about it a little bit more, it would have been hard to think that he would not play for his teammates. I mean, as much as he's been team, and that's genuine. I mean, and we're seeing that. If this is the case, that is absolutely genuine, and it's good to see a kid, and just from my own perspective, being able to cover him for one extra game is going to be fun.
The fact that they didn't have him back there returning kicks yesterday, I think the wheels are in motion with trying to address his future. Look, we're going to protect you now. There's no reason to continue to put you back there. You had to give Brandon Polk an opportunity. James Franklin said after the game they were working through some things with Saquon during the week, and I wonder if part of that was a little bit more of a reduced role in terms of risking him.
Well, and how about James saying, "Well, I gave him my opinion on what he should do before the season." But I'm not telling you guys. What do you think James Franklin is going to tell him before the season? He's called him basically the best player he's ever been around, and so of course I'm sure James Franklin said, "In your own best interest, I would advise you to go." He didn't say that. I'm guessing that, but it's kind of funny how James is like trying to not let us in on the big secret.
Because he's kind of rolling the dice, gambling a lot of money here in the future. We might have to have a major fundraiser in his behalf if he would get hurt.
Well, you'd be the chairman for that, Mike.
I might be the
Irwin Financial.
I'll make a lead gift. I'll make a lead gift if that would happen because I respect so much of that guy's what he's done and his commitment to the team is just great.
All right, we're going to take our first time out here, but when we return, we're going to have more on some standouts from the big win on Saturday. The Nitwits will be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name.
We now return to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
Afterwards, a lot of talk surrounded these seniors and Barkley's future, but two players that will be back in 2018 had some stellar outings, including Trace McSorley, who was just shy of 400 total yards and 4 total touchdowns.
Just one of the greatest players that we've been privileged to witness. I mean, this guy, Barkley, of course, is that wow factor, and he, has been the Heisman candidate that everyone has sort of championed, at least for the first portion of the year. But Trace McSorley just continues to get it done week after week, so productive, another close to 400 yards total offense. He's run a touchdown pass in 26 straight games, right back to the Tax Slayer Bowl. That's all he's done since he's been there.
And nobody asks Franklin about him after the game. It's like everybody's so concentrated on Barkley that I think we sort of forget what sort of career this guy is putting together. But that throw to Gesicki right there, he made some unbelievable throws, and his pocket presence just continues to get better and better and better. He had a couple of plays in this game where he spun away from people and he just moved around in the pocket, flipped the ball to Barkley. What a great feel and what a great quarterback he's been.
If he stays healthy, he is going to leave with every significant passing and total offense record.
And then, we talk about, look at some of these throws he's making. That throw, there's another one. There was no window there. So that's the thing. People talk about he doesn't have great arm strength or whatever.
But he is so accurate.
Yeah.
His passing is unbelievable. I wasn't a big McSorley fan maybe a year ago, but lately I just watched him and how accurate he is in throwing the ball in there, especially against Iowa on the winning score there. And then yesterday, early in the game, he was throwing them right on target.
Tough to sell you, Mike. This kid's been.
Well, no, I was really excited for him yesterday. More so than I have been, and I think he's going to lead the program going down the road too.
I think he's been fantastic for really 2 years.
Because
the heart that he's put in this program, he had been bringing them back. Other than the Michigan game, you look at how many times. They've lost 3 games in a stretch of about 20 by a total of 7 points. You include the Pitt game last year. The other, except for Michigan, they've been blown out. They've been blown out one time in 2 years.
Yeah, I think somebody early in the year made a point that he's put them in position to win every game except for Michigan. I don't know who that was, but that's what he does. He is going to put you in a spot where you have an opportunity to win the game. Now, you may not pull every one of them out. You may have a couple of stub your toe a little bit, but he is the heart and soul of that offense and really of that team. He really gets it going.
And we're lucky to have a backup like Tommy Stevens.
Yeah.
And frankly, he stuck around and has a good attitude. And I don't know, not playing against Michigan State and Ohio State, I think it cost Penn State, but I think that Tommy Stevens will have a big future too. But you got to get in line, I guess, down there.
Well,
he's had a good attitude.
The guy carried 5 times, caught 2 passes, threw 2 completions. It was nice to really see him involved. I thought Juwan Johnson had a really good, I would say his best game, because that was probably Iowa when he won the game. But this guy had a great, they should be in good shape at that receiver position next year.
Yeah, when you look at a guy 6'4", 225, able to run the way that he does. He had a play in this game where he bounced off of a couple of tacklers, and again, you're starting to see some of these younger receivers make some huge plays. Hamilton's obviously been big for them all year, but I think this is a good sign. There it is. This is a good sign moving forward, that you have guys like this stepping up and making big plays.
That was your play of the game, I thought. It kind of busted it open, gave them the lead for good once they scored there.
Yeah, Franklin said at the beginning of the year that he's got a Chris Godwin-esque mentality, but he's certainly come into his own here this season.
Wow, practice video, Alex.
There
I love
you
it.
go. There you go.
That shot wasn't tight enough. Hold on. That's an inside joke for practice.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't tell Chris Peterson. We'll grab a splash of water here, but when we return, there's always room for improvement. We're going to nitpick when we return.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Monarch Cleaners for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State. By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886.
I'm Steve Jones, the voice of the Nittany Lions, and you're watching the Nitwits.
Welcome back to the Nitwits. Penn State saw Nebraska chip away at a large second-half lead in Saturday's game. What concerned you the most after watching this one last night?
Well, I would start with the special teams. They just have been springing some leaks lately, just plays that you just don't. I mean, they got off to a good start yesterday and really had things. Seemed like they had some early momentum, and then all of a sudden they, sort of wander into a punt that was going to roll dead. I mean, that just let the air out of them for a while, and still they end up putting 42 points at the first half. So I thought that was bad play.
Yeah, I mean, Zach McPherson, he's a redshirt freshman. Yeah, he'll learn from that. I mean, that's the one thing you take. Tyler Davis, keep putting these kickoffs out of bounds. I mean, I don't understand that. Overall, though, the inability of this team to drop the hammer on anybody. For all the people early in the year who were complaining about running it up or doing this and doing that, that's a bunch of baloney. You know what? Start dropping the hammer on people. They're not doing it. They let 2 leads against ranked teams slip away. They were unable to really put Rutgers away the way they should have. And this is a game where, listen, they basically didn't play very well at all in the fourth quarter. Sooner or later, you have to start dropping that hammer on people, especially in the position they're in now. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that they're going to work their way in the playoffs. That's just not going to happen. But every win, every point you score at this point could improve your bowl scenario. And I was surprised that they didn't play well in the fourth quarter.
Well, I look at the defensive line, and they don't really have a dominating player on that defensive line. They have a lot of good players, but they don't have the Bruce Clarks and the Mike Reeds and those type of guys that make something happen in there. And I mean, the guy Tanner Lee, from Nebraska, had a lot of time to throw the ball. And if you look back, Ohio State had a lot of time to throw the ball, and they weren't getting to the quarterback. I mean, so I look at, they have to make some improvement there. And then their man-to-man coverage has been a little suspect. I mean, their defense. So I don't know. I know James Franklin said they had a lot of second teamers in there at the end of the game because they were so far ahead, but still letting a team score 44 points, which is the most points ever scored on Penn State at Beaver Stadium. Giving up, I don't care if it's the second team, the third team.
Listen, go back and look. It wasn't all second teamers the whole time. Mm-hmm. Okay, on 5 of Nebraska's last 6 possessions, they scored touchdowns. Those weren't all against second teamers.
Mm-hmm. I think the last 2 for sure were, and
right. So that's 2 of 5.
I think your second unit has to play a little better. I mean, kids that get disgruntled, you're up 49 to 21 or whatever it is, that is the time to. Everyone's going to complain. Why don't you put your second unit in? We wanted to see Tommy Stevens yesterday actually before we did,
right.
And it was because Nebraska played with some character in the second half. But the other thing I want to bring up is they've sprung a couple leaks here, and Franklin I think is trying to do whatever he needs to do discipline-wise. But we haven't seen Manny Bowen now for a couple weeks. We didn't see Herb Charles yesterday, sort of an absence that was some sort of an act of
not explained.
No, it wasn't an injury. It didn't seem like. So some of these kids are anxious to get on the field. And some of them that are on the field late got to play a little better.
Yeah. Another disappointment, I know you've mentioned it before, is Blacknell. I mean, that kid has a lot of potential, but we've seen very little of him. I mean,
He started yesterday.
Yeah, he started. He played a little bit. I don't know.
Fall started too.
They're starting to feel. He had one catch. I
Like
didn't
you've been out of
realize
the, loop a little bit. Neil's been fighting the Blacknall fight all season.
Well, no,
long.
I think he is. I think he has potential down the road for the pros. I mean, he's getting out of there. I think, but they have so many other receivers. It's hard to pick and choose. I mean, they have guys waiting to get in, and but he seemed like he's another kid that seemed real positive about his experience at Penn State. How much he loves the program, he loves the school, and all that. A guy that wasn't given the ball that much, I thought he'd have a little more animosity toward the school.
Can I follow up on one thing Neil said? I mean, I with all this wet blanket stuff that we're talking about, I think you have to give Nebraska a lot of credit. That program is in a tough spot. They have a lame duck coach. They came out, and give the other guy credit, they fought in the second half. Okay, so regardless of what Penn State did or didn't do, that was nice to see. That's a proud program with a great tradition. Nobody wants to see them as bad as they are. And for them to come out and play with the heart and character, that part of it I liked. You don't like what you saw from Penn State, but it was good to see
You're right,
that
you have
team.
to give them credit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good comment to give them credit because
Well, he's such a nice guy.
he's turning a new leaf.
When we return, we're putting Nebraska in the rearview mirror, turning our attention to Maryland. It's prediction time when the NitWits returns.
The NitWits are brought to you by Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome back. Penn State will leave University Park, head to College Park to take on the Terps. So are they going to fear the turtle? I don't think so.
Well, you're first.
I'm first. Okay. It started well for the
You've
Terps
been
to win over Tech.
2
I'm
weeks
so
in a row,
used
you've
to it.
looked at me. I'm looking right back at you, pal.
All right. I'm going to go with Penn State 45-17 in this one. Big win over the Terps.
You didn't even write it down.
It's actually in the prompter. Whenever.
Go ahead, Neil.
Okay. Penn State hasn't played that as well on the road. Bigger game from Maryland typically is. But I think, Penn State really needs to roll into whatever bowl it's going to go to with some momentum. I'm going to say Penn State 40, Maryland 21.
Wow. I think Penn State's going to finally put together 4 good quarters. I mean, this is a team that isn't very good against the run. Look for another big game against for Saquon Barkley. I go Penn State 40, Maryland 17.
A little squeeze, purposely squeezed.
What?
I don't know who squeezed it. I'm not adding them up. But that game ball, the only guest picker that picked one right.
That's true.
So I'm going to be right on this one. I mean, last year it was 38-17.
14,
38-4. I'm going to say 44-10 is Penn State over Maryland. 44-10. And I know Maryland has gone through about a couple quarterbacks already. That's the big problem in Maryland, that they're in with about their third or fourth.
We need calculators here. This is so confusing.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining
everybody.
us. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you back here next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm, and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Solani Orthodontics. Doctors Reed and Solani provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor. Go Penn State! By Allegheny Street Cigar. Allegheny Street Cigar, Blair County's only cigar lounge. By McAleer's Plumbing, specializing in plumbing, heating, and air conditioning, serving our community since 1886. By Lakeview Sheds and Vinyl in East Freedom. You can buy off our lot or we can customize your dream shed. By Shields Awards and the Sports Shop. We have a fantastic selection of awards, apparel, and memorabilia at great prices. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you can get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.